Thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's not time for us to look at what the papers are reporting. Let's have a peek through. First, the Nation newspaper says APC, victory in the FCT, Rivers, Kano, a referendum on Tinubu government. And the riders read, ruling party sweeps into big win in Abuja councils by elections. And President hails peaceful polls. Next is New Telegraph newspaper. Our Electoral Act has made polls in Nigeria better. That's according to the National Assembly. Reviews how Parliament engaged AGF, INEC, CSOs, development partners for 2 years before enactment of law. Next is the Daily Trust newspaper. 2025 budget, capital without cash. So we have so much to spend, but then, we have so much to do, but not enough to spend, according to the Daily Trust. Will definitely demystify it. The Punch newspaper says NNPC, NUPRC fear financial squeeze after Tinubu's order. Tensions soars as executive order disrupts oil revenue flow. Bengerson, NNPC, NURPC officials foresee funding crisis. Next is the Guardian newspaper. Uncertainty trails future of Shea, or the Shea not export, as 6-month ban ends. Okay, let's move on to the Daily Independent. Wages lag as housing, transport costs surge. That's a biting theme for Nigerians. Platform Times, food waste crisis. Nigeria records 5 trillion naira post-harvest losses. Tomatoes, dairy, meat, fish among hardest hit. And that's about it for the papers. Okay, let's get on to brass tack. I'll be doing this with long-time colleague, Nelson. Runaway colleague, Nelson.
I'm back now.
Back like he never left.
Ria and indeed Biodun Shomi are in-house analysts. Let's start with the Nation newspaper with the headline APC. Victory in the FCT, Rivers, Kano, referendum on Tinubu government. And they say ruling party sweeps into big win in Abuja councils by elections, and President hails peaceful polls. So if you look at Govt taken by the PDP with over 22,000 votes, the FCT, Kwali, APC, and Amak, Buhari, Abaji, Kuje won by the APC. If you go to Kano State, the same thing won by the APC, Kano Municipal, and then Ungogo. And then in River State, Ahoda East was won by the APC, and Kana 2 was also won by the APC. This is a big win for the APC. Could we call that, or can we call that a foretaste of what is to come in 2027?
Well, I probably could, but I don't really want to use that as a conclusion of that, because I think it is still a microcosm of the macro matter at the end of the day. But it's a good look for the APC, frankly speaking, especially not even Abuja for now, especially in Rivers State, being that Rivers State has always been a PDP state. Now all of a sudden it's been swept into the APC's basket by the broom, so it looks good for them. But I'm really getting a bit more concerned with the number of influx into the APC as a political party right about now. The APC needs to then begin to identify the kind of persons who carry their tag. Who are they? And then what does the APC stand for? Because the APC now, with the number of persons who have come in, they have to then begin to think of systematic structuring. So that where do they want to go to? How long do they want to last as a political party? And if they want to go that far, for instance, comparing to the United States, the Democratic and the Republican Party, we can tell distinctively who these parties are. And anybody who bears a Republican or a Democrat, we know who they are. And so political parties in Nigeria, come APC now, have to then begin to systematically build who they are, what they represent, and whoever bears their name tag has to be able to identify with that. Or else it will become a platform just for winning a ticket to become something in the political corridors without actually delivering the dividends of what it is you are for.
You've raised very valid points, but in all of this, the president actually hailed the peaceful polls, and even the one thing you cannot take away from those elections, there were no violence. And it was peaceful, even though apathy was recorded in some places. But then we still had election, and it's we are here and happy about it?
You know, for me, I'm happy that it was peaceful, because oftentimes on this table, I've spoken about the fact that we need to make sure that the people that go out to vote are safe. They can vote and go back home. And we need to make sure that people are not just causing, trouble during voting. But, Nelson has made really, really valuable points. But another thing I want to touch on is that it's a good one for APC, because when we look at Kano, Kano has like the largest number of voting. So APC, winning in that place as well, it signals a good one for them for 2027. But then when the suite is open, everybody will want to come on top of the suite. Do you understand? So that suite also has to be careful and know when to close, because when too many people are cooking a soup, that soup will never be sweet. So for the APC as well, this is a good one for them. It's a litmus test, and the test is a good one that shows that 2027, they stand solidly. But then again, they need to make sure that the people they are bringing into the party are not just people that want to use the party, to win a ticket. But there are people that believe in the ideology of the party.
Yeah. What Nelson was analyzing, the Nation newspaper, he actually touched on the fact that, APC has welcomed a whole lot of people. You see bees now feasting on the sugar that is, placed on the ground. And he's also warning of the fact that they have to be very careful so that there won't be any implosion. That's one. At the heart of all of these elections, was INEC. And before the elections, there was the issue of real-time transmission of election results before it was finally signed into an act. How do you appraise this? Starting from the fact that yes, APC is happy. Something happened to PDP when they felt we could rule for 60 years after 16 years, and the other one, INEC. How do you approach this?
Well, when PDP was in power, they were in power for 16 years, and they boasted about being the biggest party in Africa. We've not had that from APC so far. They not only did that, they went as far as saying that they would stay in power for 50 years. We've seen how 50 years became 16 years. So, interestingly, that would tell you, what arrogance does to people. So they've seen that. I'm sure they must be licking their wounds by now. Then again, in terms of internal party democracy, we've seen how they played it, and it became so, the party became so badly divided, even up to now, that they could not get their acts together. And that explained why Atiku had to leave, when confronted by Wike over lack of respect for internal arrangement. So again, we've seen PDP probably at its lowest ebb currently. Now, in terms of APC, it's a different ballgame, and of course, APC will have a lot of lessons to learn. They are not ideological. They are not an ideological party, like Nelson pointed out. Maybe there's a need to build up what you're about and let your members identify with it. So, but what I see going on is, if you look at, because you highlighted the fact that INEC is right at the heart of this last election, but also security services.
Absolutely.
And I'm saying that because there was no violence. In addition to that, in Abuja, there are reports of people arrested for vote buying. Even-handed approach by the EFCC. Allegedly, 17 million naira has been recovered. So those people are being processed currently through investigation by the EFCC to find out who gave you the money, how did you come about all this money being used for vote buying. Then, in terms of the technology deployed, which was right at the center of the controversy before this election, INEC said, okay, we'll do mandatory transmission of results. People kept confusing real time. Real time is when you vote, and the vote immediately changes on the board, and
more
automatically.
Like a VAR.
So this is just sending the result, to the IREF, and INEC did that, and it worked perfectly. In many cases, we have seen the fact that it will not change the result of any election. It depends on what people vote. Nobody's alleging that it was changed or anything or rigged in any form. So the fact of the matter is, all the hula baloo about real-time voting and not are just mere distractions. It does not change what the voters will do. I think this result, both in Kano, if you look at what happened in Kano, it's more or less the indicating that Kwakwanzo overplayed his hands. He overplayed his hands, and because the governor, Yusuf, has always been a grassroots person within the Konkasiya movement, it was easy for people to relate, to him.
Absolutely.
So that's one problem that they have there. In Rivers State, the Rainbow Coalition, Rainbow in quote, Rainbow Coalition of Wike seems to be delivering the results. So for me, I think it's an affirmation of confidence in the leadership of the country, in the policy direction of the federal government.
Absolutely. And talking about politicians being ideologue, I think they're actually queuing into the manifesto of Mr. President, the Renewed Hope Initiative. I guess that's what every one of them actually queuing on that. So let's move on to the New Telegraph. Our Electoral Act has made polls in Nigeria better. That's according to the National Assembly. You see, part of the key reforms in the Electoral Act, you have the mandatory electronic transmission of results, compulsory BVAS usage, digital party registers, increased spending limits, etc. But some other people defer on it. Opposition concerns, civil society skepticism about all of this. Nelson, very quickly, let's go at this.
I just sat off from a research, Ibrahim. I've been on this Electoral Act. I had to go back to 1999 and even before then and see what happened, during the years of the reforms that has taken place in INEC, in our electoral reforms. It's a good one. And frankly, I think Nigerians, we also need to take a little bit of a pause and think just a few years behind where our elections was before, how we used to run elections in this country. I think we've traveled quite a good distance from what it used to be. Ballot box, box snatching, multiple thumbprinting and all of that. It's a good way we've gone, but we're not completely there yet. We're still on the way. But for what has just come out, it looks really good. The responsibility now lies on the hands of parties, political parties, to be able to deploy as much men as you can to able to see what goes on at the polling units, so that we don't just sit around transmission of elections to monitoring of elections by your own men and women in your political party. Because if you want to go national, you have to have the national weight to do that. Else, stick to a local government.
All right, then. Let's move on to the Guardian newspaper because of our time. Uncertainty trails future of Shea nut or Shea butter export as 6-month ban ends. Ria, if you look at, the federal government, back in the day, I think it was in August 2025, when they have this 6 months temporary ban on exportation. So the current policy status actually has to do with the objective is to increase Nigeria's share of $6.5 billion global market from less than 1% to at least 20% by 2030. So they had a review. Some said it was positive. Others said no, is kind of so-so. So the price volatility at the time when they instituted it fell from 1.2 million to 800,000 naira. But some are saying the price has stabilized. But farmers, thousands of rural women who constitute 90 to 95% of the workforce, have faced reduced farm gate prices and loss of financial independence. So it's so-so, for a whole lot of people.
In French, we say it's comme ci, comme ça. But if you ask me, at the end of the day, in Nigeria, we produce a whole lot of this. So I feel like this ban is going to help in one way or the other. But then when you look at the prices, for example, in Ghana, I'll take you all the way to Ghana. We use, shea butter a whole lot.
Absolutely.
We manufacture it there a whole lot. What I see in Nigeria is that we manufacture it, we export it, but we do not get as much money that we're supposed to be getting. So I'm hoping that this ban, be lifted, will now give us more access to. I always say Nigeria first. At the end of the day, what we produce here, if we're exporting it, of course, we have to be making more money from it. We cannot be getting peanuts from it. So I think that is a good one, for the ban to be lifted. And we keep our fingers crossed to see how it happens, because Nigeria is a place that everybody uses shea butter in one way or the other. So.
All right, let me jump to the Platform Times. It's quite related. Food waste crisis. Nigeria records 5 trillion naira post-harvest losses. Some of these include tomatoes, dairy, meat, fish among hardest hit. We have large expanse of, you're a farmer yourself. We have large expanse of land, to farm, to produce all of this, crops, cash crops inclusive. But then after harvest, we only sell, we consume. We don't save as much as we should, and we don't also do much of value addition. So, vis-a-vis the shea butter, crisis and all of that, what do you think we are missing, and how should we approach this very quickly?
Yeah, I think we have about 5 silos for grains in the country, but we do not have silos for other products. Lagos State government currently is building a huge storage in Ketu Inepe area, which will help fish farmers and others, a lot. We need to have that kind of center across the country, virtually in every state, in order to avoid wastage. If you look at the other aspect of it, which is manufacturing, why aren't we manufacturing tomato puree. Why are we allowing tomato, fruits, to waste away? So
we can do tomato paste
or tomato paste.
Yeah. We can even dry the tomato and sell it much later.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can even develop a market around it for export if we have assets rather than allowing them to waste away. And it's quite very, very important. So we need the storage, while at the same time we need to be able to convert some of these things, process them and then export them also. We have Africa, given the African Free Continental Trade Agreement, to play with. Do you know,
just like Mr. Biodu has said, in as much as, we need storage is very important, but I strongly believe in manufacturing things in our place. We say Nigeria first. As a lady, Mr. Biodu, I make my tomato paste myself. I close it and I keep it, and it stays for it can stay for a month.
So what are you telling us? Wife material?
No, not about wife material. I'm just trying to say that there are things that we can manufacture here in Nigeria. We don't always have to go outside, basically.
Most definitely. Yeah. And that's a good one. At least your suitor has, got to know that, okay.
I'll come take some from your house.
So he doesn't need to pay for fuel.
At all.
All right, then let's move on to the Daily Independent very quickly, Nelson, as we wrap with this paper. Wages lag as housing, transport costs surge. Okay, so we have 70,000 minimum wage across the nation. Some states are seeking to, they actually pay higher than 70,000 naira. But the problem
some are not even there yet.
Some are not even there yet. Some are still on the 30,000 naira minimum wage. And you see cost of houses, rising, transportation. Some house rents, rose from 100 as high as 100% to 500%.
That's right.
This is killing.
It's absolutely worrisome, Brian, because I don't think landlords know that not everybody is either Yahoo or
especially when they see you on air. You're like,
exactly.
Why are you increasing my rent? Or you are speaking English.
Somewhere that you're making millions at the end of the day. Look, we need to now understand ourselves. And you too, if you are a tenant, stop buying 3 cars into somebody's compound now. Why would they raise your rent? But that's on a playful side.
Just yesterday I was telling my neighbor, I'm like, for this car you brought here, it's not for this house. Why would they not increase your rent?
You cannot be a tenant, you're driving one big Jeep like that. But anyways, we need to then be considerate. Times are easing off, from what we came in the general election. But we need to give ourselves time for that easing to become really evident in the pockets of everyone.
That's right.
We can't keep increasing. Now we do ourselves.
Ria, very quickly.
Man, they do man at the end of the day. But in as much we speak about tenants and all of that, we need to also highlight some greedy landlords. Some landlords, their work is just to be extorting tenants. That's what they know how to do. And oftentimes we've spoken about regulations. How do we even regulate these landlords? How do we regulate the fact that you cannot just move rents from a certain amount to another amount? Because now, so whenever we speak about this, we speak about how our youths are burnt out. You graduate from school, you cannot even rent a 2-bedroom apartment in Lekki. So the landlords also need to be looked into.
Very quickly, as a comment, to tenants, they see landlords as latter-day Shylock. Whereas the landlord will always say, listen, I build myself. Building materials are very expensive. I'm a retiree. Where do you expect me to see money? This is my investment. So how do we balance this? Look, what policy reforms are we missing?
Could it be a factor of demand and supply, where you have a sex demand? Many people are moving. Let me give you Lagos, for instance. People are moving in on a daily basis. Where is the land to build on, even if government wants to provide housing? And where you have uneven, combined and uneven development, you are bound to have what we are going through. And it's not a national problem. We need to understand that. This is a problem affecting Lagos, Ogun.
Even Ibadan, Oyo?
Yes, and major cities. Major cities is not a national problem in that sense, in the sense that people are drifting. It's about internal migration, to urban areas, and that's what is causing the problem. So what we need to do, the solution, is to ensure that industries are better spread. If, for instance, most of the industries, about 80% of industries within Nigeria are within Lagos and Ogun.
I think sometimes.
So it's something that we need to ensure that industries and businesses are better spread in a way that will provide them modern facilities in the rural areas to discourage internal migration. For instance, pressure on rent and transport.
Sometimes you ask yourself, all this English I'm speaking on English, should I not go to the farm and start farming one day?
Make more money than
I'm telling you.
All right, then, that's about it for the newspapers up for review. We believe that we've entertained and educated you and informed you at the same time.